All right. Hi, everyone. You're listening to a very special interview of the Blockchain Socialist because we're going to talk about something that I've gotten a lot of questions about when it comes to blockchain and how do you use blockchain and crypto for a more democratic type of economy. And the reason that is because I think for a lot of people, when they look at the surface of blockchain world, they think, well, the power of capital, no matter how democratic you want, your blockchain economy to be, the power of capital will always prevail because anybody can make sort of any amount of wallets or identities. There's no way to verify that one person is a single identity. And therefore, the default way that a lot of these systems and applications are sort of governed is sort of through how many tokens do you own. And therefore, if you own more tokens, you have more power. And that looks exactly like the same type of economy that we have today, in which people with a shit ton of money are able to have also a shit ton of power at the same time. And so part of this issue, or like the way that people have responded to this issue, of course, is trying to find ways around it. There are some solutions out there that I think are worse or better than others. We've heard of things like proof of humanity, but that is one that's sort of, in my opinion, proof of humanity to me looks sort of like a privacy nightmare in the long run. So I'm not like a huge fan of that type of system. But there are other more interesting ones. And one that caught my eye was one called Idena. And Idena is something that is a separate blockchain, and it also preserves people's privacy who are able to, but also creating their own identity and verifying that identity. And so we're going to go into how that happens and how that works. I was in contact with one of the core engineers of the project who wanted to stay anonymous, so he didn't want to be interviewed, but the Idena community came up with a couple of people who wanted to come onto my show and sort of explain what Idena is, why it's important, and what are the implications of it. So we're going to go into that. So I have two people with me. I have TravCrypto and LTraveler, who are both, if you can't tell, pseudo-anonymous names because we like to preserve privacy here. But yeah, hey guys, thanks for coming on. Do you guys want to maybe give just a quick introduction to yourselves?
My nickname is LTraveler. I became into the project 1.5 years or 2 years, I don't remember exactly. And that project catched me because, well, first of all, I was looking for something that could give me a chance to get into the crypto without any investment, because I was kind of new into the crypto. And I started to read, and first what caught my attention, it was like, wow, you don't need to buy anything. You need just to solve flips and you're getting rewards. And step by step, it's becoming pretty fun to solve something every 20 days, and then you're getting some crypto. And then at the end, after 3 or 4th validation ceremonies, you have amount of money, which is not a big money, but it is money. And then I start to develop my own script, which is called Idena Runner, which helps people to run Idena in the Linux server without knowing a lot about Idena in interactive way. And then I start to do my own YouTube channel, which is Crypto Retail, which is now focused on Idena blockchain to explain everything, especially in a technical way for people. And that's how I get into the Idena world.
And we'll explain all those things that you mentioned in a little bit. I know some people might be confused.
Hey guys, I'm Trav. I go by TravCrypto online and different socials. I've been a part of the Idena community for about a little over 2 years now. But like most people, I started out kind of out of high school with personal finance, kind of diving into economics. That got me interested in cryptocurrency. I started reading white papers like Bitcoin and Ethereum. That kind of got me more interested in blockchain technology, and then more importantly, proof of or different consensus mechanisms that actually govern blockchains. So I came across Idena because I was searching and searching for a blockchain that wasn't based solely on kind of how much money you had or plutocracy, but rather a blockchain that's open and welcoming for anyone to participate in. And it's actually the first blockchain that I ever was able to, as a non technical person, very easily set up a full node and participate in the actual validation of the blockchain.
Nice, cool. So maybe like Trav, if you want to start, can you give us like a high level, explain like I'm five, what is Idena?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, first of all, I want to lead off with you don't need any experience in cryptocurrency or blockchain to participate in the Idena community. You could actually, without any funds, basically just a device and yourself, proof of person, which I'll dive into momentarily, you can participate in Idena and start validating on the Idena blockchain. So, what Idena is essentially is a layer one blockchain that uses the consensus mechanism proof of person. And what that means is, unlike proof of work, where you need lots and lots of computer power to participate in the network, that would be one example, would be like Bitcoin, or unlike proof of stake, where you need a lot of resources or money or a certain amount of the given cryptocurrency to participate. Idena, you can participate just by being a human, right? Just by proving your personhood, which is really cool and welcoming for everybody. And just to give a brief kind of explanation of how to get started, you could go to idena.io, and that's the website that basically breaks down how to participate in this proof of personhood blockchain.
Yeah, I think there is one thing that the difference, like the main difference between other blockchains, that other blockchains using the power of your money or the power of the hardware that you have. But the Idena blockchain is using the power of your brain. So it's like you are investing your brain into the fair democracy, because there is very hard to have many identities. Yes, you could have one more, probably two more identities, and you can pass the validation like simultaneously, but this is the maximum. So that's how the blockchain protect themselves out of cloning, like the identities and so on. And this is very important.
Yeah. Do you want to maybe explain exactly what the proof of personhood consensus mechanism is, how that works?
I think you will start and then I will add something.
Yeah. So, like we mentioned, there's kind of a good synergy between me and LTraveler because I like to give kind of a broad, high level overview, and then, of course, he can dive into the more technical details. So we're a good duo in that sense. But so, as I just mentioned, Idena is a blockchain that anyone can participate in. That was the point I was trying to hit home. But more importantly, as LTraveler mentioned, all you need is basically yourself and the ability to solve a puzzle called a flip. This is kind of the key point. It's a validation ceremony that currently happens once every approximately 3 weeks, that anyone in the world can participate, whether it's your first time or for some of our community members, maybe your 80th time. You can participate in this validation ceremony. And the whole goal from a high level perspective is just to prove that you're a person, to prove that you're not a bot, to prove that you are in fact a human being and that you're participating in the network. And how we do that is through this validation ceremony where you solve a flip. And the flip is essentially 4 different pictures in a given order, side by side, with 4 of the same pictures, in a different order. And you have to prove as a human which of those orders make makes logical sense. And so you have a time limit, and you select which flip is correct, and that proves that you are a human. So now LTraveler can kind of dive into the more technicals of that and how it works as a system.
Okay, so we have two types. I mean, the whole ceremony we could divide into the two parts. Like the first part, it's a qualification part, and then we have a main part, like a main ceremony. For the first part, we have just 1 minute and 45 seconds, and the purpose of that part is to protect the blockchain out of people who want to solve uh, the validation ceremony from many identities, because of the qualification part is very short. Like, you don't have enough of time to solve from many identities. Yes, it is possible, and some people are passing from 2 or 3, even I saw from 4 identities. But I will talk about it later, because it is very important to pass that qualification part in a maximum score that you could get. Why? Because depends of that you will get the identity status. So for now we have 4 actually identity statuses, like a positive, and 2 identity statuses which is negative. So from the positive statuses we have a candidate. It is the first ceremony. When you're passing the first ceremony, you are transforming your identity from candidate into the newbie. So to get into the ceremony, you have to get an invitation code, which is very important, because that's how the blockchain protect themselves out of joining lots of bots. Because when you cannot create a botnet, because to each of the identity you need a invitation code. So since you get into the candidate part, then if you pass the ceremony, you're becoming to newbie. After the newbie status, you are becoming into the newbie with the number like 1. So you have to pass 2 times with the newbie status. And then at the end, you'll get identified status. And if you have enough of epochs age, each of the epoch giving you 1 more age. So if you have enough of epochs, then your status, and if you have enough of epochs and you have enough of score, then you're transforming yourself into the human, which is maximum status. It is very, very important.
Maximally human.
Yes, maximally human, yes. And so now let's go back about the passing validation from many identities. So if you're passing through 2 or 3 identities, of course, the chance that you're going to get mistakes are higher. And then more mistakes you're getting, then less your status is going to be. So, but only human protect himself from the loss of the stake. And we are going to talk about later about the staking mechanism that's going to be announced earlier, like after the last hard fork. The new mechanism of quadratic staking has been announced and has been integrated into the blockchain. So this is very, very important, how the blockchain protect themselves from cheating the system to having many identities.
So if I could summarize, so based on like my research and playing around with it and doing it, basically you need to get in, first off, in order to be considered for being a human on the Idena network, you have to go through like some training even first before that, I know. And you do the training where you see how sort of like these flip puzzles work, in which it's 4 kind of funky looking pictures sometimes, or like just like stock images that aren't necessarily related to each other. But if you look at them carefully, you can see that they're telling like a very basic story, like the trash is filled up, someone is taking out the trash, and then someone is putting a new bag in the trash can, and then placing the trash can in the room or something like that. And then on the other side, you'll see the same pictures but in the wrong order. It doesn't make any logical sense why it would be in that order. So there's some like cognitive like efforts you have to make to like figure out. And like I got some wrong too, and I felt like an idiot, even though some of them are kind of weird. But like doing that, I think after you do like a few of the training, I think then you get an invitation code, and then with the invitation code, you can do like the official sort of like show up at like the every 20 days based on like the block time. I think you have a thing where you go and you try to you do the same type of practice. I think maybe 4 times. You only have like 2 minutes or something like that, a very short amount of time to be able to do them. And if you do like even doing one, it's going to take some time. So it's like crazy if you can do like a bunch of them. But yeah, indeed, if you do that, then that means that like you're probably not going to do it very well. And I believe you're not doing even the it's not like it's the same test every time for every person either. So like you can't like, so there's like, what is interesting to me about it is that it is kind of like a cybernetic system in that it's not trying to like heavily enforce one person can only have one identity, and like you get punished if you even try, but they say, okay, try, but you're probably not going to do very well if you try to do like 2 or something like that.
Exactly. And there is one more thing, that from the beginning, it's established the connection between people who give an invite and who take invite, because the person who is giving an invite, he's getting rewards, and rewards kind of high. So the person who are giving you invite is motivated to teach you how to solve and to remind you to go into the validation ceremony, because you are motivated to get rewards from the blockchain. Because if you're passing, if the identity that you have invited passed the whole process from candidate to identified, you'll get the maximum reward, which is kind of high reward, like in comparing of other rewards, like for the flips or rewards for the yes, this is very important.
So you want to give it to like a real human.
Exactly,
yes. Not an AI.
Exactly, yeah.
Right, and that's a good point to touch on as well. We've talked about, maybe a human can solve multiple or participate with multiple identities in a single validation ceremony. Me personally, I can barely complete. No, I'm just kidding. I can complete, solving the 6 flips in the 2 minutes, maybe with say like 30 seconds to spare. Other people who maybe have a slightly higher IQ or have faster dexterity on their keyboard, they can maybe participate in 2 or 3 identities, and at the highest extreme, maybe 4. But it's definitely something that curves exponentially to where you very quickly hit a barrier of the number of identities that you can validate in a given ceremony. But more importantly than that is that currently AI has been unsuccessful in participating in these validation ceremonies, and that's kind of a key point that we have to touch on here.
Right, exactly.
And I will continue that subject. So how the blockchain protects from the artificial intelligence to solve the flips. First of all, there is antagonistic noise. It's kind of noise that randomly are added into the images automatically when you upload the flips. So, and through that antagonistic noise, the artificial intelligence cannot recognize exactly what the object are into the image. And the second,
but antagonistic noise is that like something invisible to us that is like digitally kind of there?
It is visible. You can see like a noise, but it didn't destruct the sense of the image.
Right, for the human eye.
For the human eye, yes. You can see like, yes, it is less clear, but it is not like you cannot recognize it. You can notice that noise. And recently they also I don't know if it is integrated or not. It's just I recently received response from them because I have asked what could be also another mechanism to protect, and they are thinking to integrate the mechanics where kind of another image gonna be applied, but with a few percentage of opacity. It's like it's gonna be an image, but it's going to be another image inside that image with the with the short percentage of opacity, and this is another protection mechanism.
Okay,
And so
interesting.
the explain like I'm five explanation of this is basically you, I, and everyone listening to this podcast could maybe look out a window and see a cat, right? And we all know that it's a cat, but maybe there's some smudges on the window, or maybe there's some kind of drawing lines, scribbles on the window, and we could all look out there and easily tell that it's a cat because we're all human and we understand that. But an AI would try to look through that window, and that distortion and that additional blurriness or squiggly lines does not allow for the AI to comprehend that it's in fact a cat.
And I think at the same time, I know that there is sort of like, if you go through their documentation of Idena, like they admit like this is a arms race, basically. Like they know that perhaps someday, like their mechanisms are not going to, or their how they're trying to defend themselves from AI may not work anymore, and so they'll have to find something else. And the point is just to like stay ahead of that curve for hopefully as long as possible, unless we make a whatever AGI I think it's called or something like that.
Exactly, it's like a balance between bad guys and good guys, and it is always like that. It's pretty interesting, like everyone, there is in the community there are two parts, and they are friends actually. Like there are farmers who are always trying to cheat the system, and there are like developers who hate farmers, but they are kind of like in a good relationships. I mean, everyone knows who is the farmer, like in the community, but there is no discrimination. Okay, if you want to take the part of the bad guys, there is going to be a good guys who are going to protect the blockchain. And this is very, very interesting. It's like real ecosystem, there is a balance in that ecosystem. It's wonderful.
I'm curious to ask you guys though as well, because there are, what is interesting is that there is, like, you call them rituals. So every 20 days or so you do this puzzle. So you have to continuously prove that you're a human. You're not just a human once, you're a human over time. So I guess if you die, then like of course your identity will disappear from the blockchain. But I'm curious, like, what your experience has been like being a part of that ritual, because it sounds strange, like in our day and age, to do any sort of. I mean, if you're not religious and then you go to church every Sunday or something, but besides that, like people don't really do rituals very much like this.
Yeah, so a synonymous term for like a less abstract term is a validation ceremony. That's what I like to call it personally, just
Yeah.
because it's humans validating their personhood on the blockchain. But yeah, it's been called all kinds of things, rituals, and maybe a meetup. And it's just essentially everyone from all around the world that wants to participate in the Idena blockchain, logging on at the same time digitally and participating in this validation ceremony. And from my own perspective, currently it happens every approximately 3 weeks, as I mentioned earlier. And the reason for this is, if we had a validation ceremony tomorrow and I went on and validated my personhood, um, and then we didn't have an additional validation ceremony, I could just continue doing that and creating more and more identities. So what this solves is everyone being in the same place at the same time doing this validation ceremony. It limits people from creating multiple identities to a very extreme extent. And my personal experience, like I was going to touch on, is in the earlier days of the Idena community, the validation ceremonies were even more frequent. So maybe it was every 2 weeks. So a lot of the most active members of the community were really participating very frequently in these validation ceremonies. Now it's, like I said, every 3 weeks. It's more reasonable. It happens on a Saturday, which allows people to, for the most part, participate. And yeah, it's cool because we've had on-chain governance in the past that have changed this, and it allows more people to participate.
Yeah. And so also in this way, I think what's key for people to understand, like the difference between maybe something like Idena invalidating your identity and being one person, and something like I mentioned earlier, like proof of humanity, is that you don't have to dox yourself. Like you don't have to reveal your face. You don't have to reveal like your real name. You don't have to show like a state ID or anything to prove that you're human. You just have to perform this like 2 minutes of labor every 21 days, every 3 weeks or so. But yeah.
And also there is like one more interesting things that at the beginning it sounds like a weird, like you have to, especially if it is very early in the morning, like you have to wake up and so on. But then you're getting use of that. It's like you feel part of the community, like you're doing something and you feel connection. And especially like if you're in a Telegram chat or in a Discord channel, people are talking, some people are posting some weird flips, and they're asking, hey, how to solve that or that. And you don't feel yourself alone. You feel like really like lots of people around you and everyone wants to help. Or yeah, like you really feel there is a huge community of very, very friendly people, open people who wants to make that network like huge and really like represent a fair democracy.
Mm-hmm. Something I like to, sorry, real quick, just to compare it to briefly, is kind of the concept of Earth Day, right? Earth Day happens once a year, and it's this global phenomenon to where everyone kind of has this sense of community. Like, I'm going to do this extra little thing to build the global community and humankind, to kind of like do my part. But this happens once a month, and it builds a sense of community. And it's obviously going to allow for a lot of cool technologies in the future.
Some of the things, I guess, from your opinion, like what are some of the more interesting things that you think something like Idena enables? Like now that we have this extra layer of verifiable identity without doxing yourself, what are the types of things that we can do with that?
Well, I think what I would say that apart from that, because the blockchain are focused on, well, the main rule of the blockchain, it's like one identity, one vote. What that means? That means that we are getting into the mechanic of the true elections. Like, for example, right now they have a mechanism which is called oracles. What that means? That means you have asked any questions from the community, and then people gonna choose the answer, and then you could get, for example, you can get the truth answers not from the machine. You will get the truth answers from people, and you even can reward them. Like you can create like a foundation, and that foundation gonna be spread to the majority of people who gonna, it's like you're asking the question, you don't know the answer, and then depends of the majority of the answers, there is going to be the truth answer of your questions. And this is very, very good, especially in investigation. Like, just imagine if the network is really huge and and you will get into your hands that kind of instrument that could prove your theory, especially in the social marketing and the social analysis and so on. And I think this is something unique that we have for now.
Right. This sort of avoids the issue of like, asking a question like, is the sky blue? But someone like how you weigh the votes, if that's determined by money, someone with a lot of money can say the sky is actually red, guys. It's purple, it's whatever. Whereas if you're all having the same amount, it gears the sort of system towards the truth because you don't have the influence of capital there.
Yes, exactly.
Right. And so, like, a broad overview of use cases that Idena offers are like things like democratic governance, which LTraveler just touched on. Universal basic income is another use case. An attention economy with decentralized ads is another use case. Just to touch on the democratic governance real quick, I assume that most people listening to this podcast have had some interaction with social media in the past. And everyone knows that on social media websites like Twitter, there's polls, right? And maybe you want to get an idea of what people's opinion is on a certain subject, or what their favorite color is, or things like this. But in today's current environment, with bots and AI and platforms that aren't sybil resistant, these polls can be skewed, right, in the favor of bad actors. And what that means is people can skew these polls by using like large amounts of bots. Like, for example, if my favorite color is blue, I could just go and create 1 million Twitter accounts that vote on this poll that says their favorite color is blue. And obviously that skews the poll. So we don't have a true democratic governance system to where everyone has one person, one vote. And it's really cool because Idena, this isn't just an idea anymore. This is actually happening. I actually personally ran a poll asking what people's favorite color is, and I got true results from real people with one vote, which is almost unheard of in most of our democratic systems. So that's one use case that I'm most excited about.
Right. I think this is like, it's because we have the thing where Bitcoin was made to where, okay, we're going to have a money system without a central entity to sort of handle the money, and whether or not they achieve that is something else. But I think what this is sort of asking us is, can we have digital democracy? Can we have a voting system in which we don't need a centralized entity to handle it? I mean, right now we have, of course, like, if you take the example of like US elections, I mean, the state provides an identity, a card that says like you're a human, you're American, whatever, and you can go vote. And you have one vote. Of course, like, Republicans will say, bullshit, like, illegals are voting 100 million times or something like that, which is obviously not happening. But even if it was happening, even if it was like, oh, someone voted twice, which people have like gone to jail for ridiculously, that's not like nearly like systemically broken enough to make it to where it's not a good system at all. Which I think Idena is like sort of similar in that, like, for the most part, 99% of people are just going to have one identity. Of course, those couple of people who are like really trying to play the system maybe can get away with like 2 or 3, but they're not going to completely change the election results. Whereas if you look at, for example, all of these different token governance models that are being used in different DeFi protocols, you see all the time where like you have a vote, what's going to happen. Everyone thinks that it's going one way, and then the very last second, some venture capital firm that has like 12% of their tokens or whatever dumps it at the very last minute, changing the result of the proposal. So like, yeah, there's a lot of like really interesting implications that, especially around digital democracy, that I think are really interesting. Hey everyone, if you're enjoying this episode so far, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, share with a friend, and join the crypto leftist communities on Discord or Reddit, which you can find links to in the show notes. If you're enjoying the interview or find the content I make important, you can pitch into my efforts starting at $3 a month on patreon.com/theblockchainsocialist to help me out and join the newest patrons like Jay Rigo, Ian, Michael Zargum, and Zarina. Contributing to the Patreon really helps since making this stuff isn't free in terms of money or time. And as a patron, you'll get a shout out on an episode like I just did and access to bonus content like Q&A episodes where you can submit and vote on questions you'd like me to answer, and it'll give my thoughts in roughly 20 minutes. In the next bonus episode, I'm going to be covering my review of the Decentralized Society paper that was published by Vitalik Buterin and Glenn Weil, so be on the lookout for that. Of course, I'll still be making free contents like this interview to help spread the message that blockchain doesn't need to be used to further entrench capitalist exploitation if we put our efforts into it. And so if that message resonates with you, I hope you'll consider helping out. Yeah, I think it'd be interesting if you want to explain maybe as well now like the quadratic staking stuff as well, since Idena is, if I understand, integrated with Gitcoin. So, and Gitcoin uses quadratic funding in which, based on sort of as a way to reduce the power of capital. But I know you wanted to explain quadratic staking.
Since the last hard fork, Idena, first of all, I would like to mention how the hard fork happens in Idena network. So if you have your node, which is installed and run, and
on your computer.
Yes, like, on your computer. It could be a Linux or Windows or Mac OS. So,
does it need to be online?
It has to be online. Online all time. Only people who run their independent node can vote for the fork, and you're voting for the fork when you are installing the latest version that support the changes that are going to be integrated into the future hard fork. So they are putting the dates of the election for the new hard fork, and it depends of how many people installed the new version of the node. Depends on that. There is going to be a solution if the hard fork going to be integrated or not. So people who are against of the hard fork, they supposed to keep the old version of the node. And people who wants to integrate the hard fork, they have to upgrade the version of their node that they are running on the system. So because of the last elections that happened in the last part of the May, we are getting into the new hard fork. And in new hard fork, they changed the mechanic, because before you were getting rewards based on the age of your identity. For example, then older your identity, then more rewards, validation rewards you're getting. They have changed that mechanic. Why? Because just imagine, I came into the network 2 years ago, and you came to the network just now, and there is a discrimination because I'm gonna get more and you're gonna get less, just because you get to know about the Idena way later than me. So they changed that mechanics into mechanic when you are investing your coins into the stake, and then we are getting the whole pie of the whole stake in the whole network. And then depends on what part of that pie is yours, depends on that you're gonna get a reward for the validation, which is very smart, because more you're investing, more you're getting from the blockchain. But there is another problem. There are people who has huge amount of Idena tokens. So based on that, they're supposed to get more than people who have just a few tokens. So how they solve that problem? There is a parameter. First of all, they created a stake calculator, which helps you to calculate your incomes. It is available on the main page, which is idena.io. But how they are balancing between a huge amount of people who has a big stake and people who has a small stake. So then more you are investing, then less percentage you are getting. So you're not going to have the same annual earnings per year with the small stake and with the big stake. So more you're investing, less percentage you're getting. And we are solving many problems. First of all, people, let's talk about farmers, right? Like before, farmers, they put all of the amount of money that they have just on one identity, and they were keeping it, was like a holder identity. Now they cannot do it anymore. They have to spread all of that coins that they have between many identities if they want to continue their farming business. But there is one more thing, because in that hard fork, they integrate the staking. There is a chance that you can lost the stake, and there are some rules. First of all, only human on the identity with the human status can have 100% of the stake protection. Another identities, if you are fail the validation, what does it mean fail? Fail means you are participated, but the results of your validation was very, very low. So if you're failing, you're losing your stake completely, like 100%. So there is one more problem for farmers. They have also checked the quality of people, how they supposed to pass the test. And they would prefer to keep their identities where they're gonna spread their stake only to identities with a human status. So with that hard fork, we are completely changing the game. Now the farmers, they supposed to care about the quality of their identities and about the quality of the people who gonna pass the validation, because they supposed to do it in a very high level. And this is very, very important about the quadratic staking. So now, because since the hard work has been integrated, the whole amount of the stake, it was doubled. So now we have 100% more coins that are saved in staking. Yes.
So like this gets at the critique as well. I think that a lot of critics will say about cryptocurrency is that it incentivizes the first arrivers, basically. And for the most part, almost every other cryptocurrency is basically that way. Partially, I think, because of, just the way a market works generally, but also I think it's sort of exacerbated with kind of like this sort of obsession with deflationary economics, I think, as well, sort of exacerbates the issue. But yeah, so this using the quadratic function, I think it probably doesn't solve it completely to where now we have perfect equality, but it definitely dampens the amount of inequality over time, I think, which is interesting.
And I would say one more thing. Yes, during the whole history of the Idena network, there are some huge farms, but only that huge farm can continue their business. The small farms, all of them are disappeared, because it is very hard to get into that business since now. Because first of all, you have to find people, then you have to train them, then you have to care about the stake. There are many, many complications. So now it is like, people, just imagine you're looking for a way to create a farm, and you start to think how many things you need to care, and the benefits that you're getting out of that, they are not so. Yes, of course, if you have thousands of people, you could earn money, not big money, but money, yes. But if we are talking about 10 or 20 people, it doesn't make sense to create farm. So that's how the quadratic stake protect the blockchain out of farmers.
So there is a large farm at the moment that is still working at that.
There is, yes, but just a few, and they exist because of the luck in the past. But now the blockchain doing the best to make that business very, very hard.
Right. Over time, I think now it seems that there is just a higher likelihood over time that the farm will not be able to sustain its business. And that's something that is like, I don't know, maybe like fun drama to watch, but also like democratically, it makes more sense.
Yeah, there is one more thing. It's very important, because the Idena adding the watermark into the flips. So people who are tired to work in the farm, they are getting into the blockchain. So farmers doing promotion work for the blockchain. And many people who came into the Idena, they actually came from farmers because they're doing a lot of job. They promoting, they looking for a people, they putting announcement. Yes, of course, they are not talking that this is Idena, but people can see, and smart people gonna leave the farms, and then they're gonna be a part of the Idena network, and this is wonderful. So farms, in a democratical way, they are doing their job. They are promoting Idena.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Idena as a network over time actually a broad goal is to reward the individual person, right? So that's why we're seeing kind of like this disbanding of some of the largest farms. People are realizing, hey, I don't need a farm. Hey, I don't need a massive organization to participate in this network. Basically, you can now participate in Idena from your web browser, which is pretty amazing. And if you want to operate a full node on other blockchains, for the layman person like myself, forget about it. Like, forget about setting up a full Bitcoin node or an Ethereum node. It's just too technically intense. Well, while on Idena, if you can download a web browser like Google Chrome onto your computer, a simple application, install it, and then participate, that's essentially what you can do with Idena. So I've seen some of my friends who have never participated with any other blockchain network basically download the Idena node on their computer, participate in the validation ceremony, and become a part of the Idena network. So it's really cool to see it's happening like on a personal level with me and my friends, but I'm also seeing it globally where these massive farms that used to have a big hold on people, now those people are breaking out of these farms and just operating by themselves. So it's cool to see.
Interesting dynamics. It's, I think, yeah, for the cynic, I think it's easy to look at the farms and say, like, see, it can't work. It can't happen because you have these issues. Whereas I think what is actually interesting is the fact that they're honest about the issues, and that it looks like to me that there has been progress, at least in decreasing the severity of those issues. So I think sometimes, I kind of say, like, don't let perfect get in the way of good enough. And so, like, thinking in this more, in my opinion, it looks like kind of cybernetic way of where you're trying to contain a system in a particular direction, knowing that that there are uncertainties, is like interesting to see.
Yeah, and one cool thing to touch on that point is I think something really unique to the Idena community is both the core team and the community itself. We have these discussions about new concepts or maybe implementing a hard fork, and we get the idea as close to possible as perfect. But like you said, don't let perfect get in the way of great. So we have conversations, we discuss, we see what are the pros, what are the cons. You have two different sides and they debate, and we get this huge debate going, and we get the idea as close to possible as a final product that's perfect. But of course, you can't always get it there, right? You might get it to 99% or 98%, but instead, as LTraveler mentioned earlier, with these hard forks, we get that idea very close, and then to implement it, we have a system in place to where you can actually vote with your node whether to implement that hard fork. And we've actually already had a few hard forks in the past that were successfully implemented, and that is all based on community governance.
And anyone can create and promote their ideas. And then first stage, you create an idea and you have to write this idea into, like, somewhere. It could be a public platform, or you even can save your nodes into the blockchain, because there is a system which is called IPFS. It's like a file system that are integrated inside the blockchain. and you can publish like a simple web pages there. And then you are creating an oracle. And then if the majority of people gonna vote for you, then in the next stage, you can go into there is a, on the website, which is docs.idena.io, there is a part which is called IIPS. It's like ideas to improve Idena. And then your idea going to be integrated there. And then there is a mechanism of the smart contracts. So, and with that mechanism, the blockchain gonna pay you by parts, depends of the in which stage your idea is integrated. So it's like if the majority of people choose you, you are responsible to make an integration of your idea into Idena blockchain. That's how that smart ideas came about the quadratic stake and so on. And because of the group discussion, because of the votes, and this is incredible. This is really shows how people could really improve the mechanic and how the Idena blockchain governance can manage the evolution of the system.
I see. That's really interesting. So like you can build in systems of accountability to where, for one, you can be recognized as the person who maybe thought of an idea, and then people can hold you accountable if you say you're going to do that idea to actually make it. So like you have the, I don't know, you can stay as anonymous as you want while also still having accountability.
I would like to mention one more thing. It's just about the Idena. So we didn't touch much the idea of the decentralized advertisement, but this is very important. It's like a new thing that Idena engineers that are integrated. And the interesting part of that is that there is no motivation for people to click on advertisement, or there is nobody who are paying to watch the advertisement, because this is the big problem of the marketing now, because people can, there are some organizations that are making business out of paying for someone to watch ads, or out of people who are clicking on ads. So Idena solved that completely. How? They have created, first of all, they call it decentralized advertisement mechanism. And if you want to promote something, first of all, you have to pass the moderation process. And who is going to be the moderators? The moderators going to be members of the network. So you're creating an ad, then you're sending an ad into the blockchain, then the blockchain choosing randomly the committee that's going to do the moderation. And then the majority of moderators, if they approve the ads, never mind if they approve the ads or if they decline the ads, they're going to get rewarded. The majority of the moderators who choose the decision. So, and if your ads is passing the moderation, then you have to burn coins to catch attention of people. So nobody earning money. You have to burn coins to show your ad. And this is incredible. That's how we are protecting ourselves from the inflation mechanism, because we are burning coins. And then there are like people, it's like how we're making a circulation of the coins inside the network.
Right. Yeah. It's we were talking about this earlier, but it's like someone who wants to create an advertisement that will show on the Idena platform will have to burn their tokens, and the more that they burn, the more likely it is that their advertisement will be shown. And because it's burnt, everyone who's a part of the Idena ecosystem, theoretically, would benefit from that, because the spoils due to the burning would sort of like be evenly split amongst everyone, rather than like Google or whoever else, Facebook, sort of earning all of the revenue from, you know, someone wanting to push ads. And there's no like was it like you know, like payments per click or pay per click or something like that involved either. But yeah, thank you guys so much for coming on and for explaining Idena to us. It's been really awesome to hear. Yeah, this is like so much different than like usually I get someone who's like the engineer of the project or like a manager of the project or something like that. But you guys are like community members, which is like pretty different. But yeah, do you guys maybe just to end it off, if you want to share your plugs, where can people find you, where can people follow you, and any last words?
So I have a YouTube channel, the YouTube channel called Crypto, but the main subject of my channel is Idena. I'm talking about like the basics of Idena, also about some technical knowledges. And also on GitHub, I'm developing the script, which is called Idena Runner, that helps to run Idena node in a Linux system, because many people, they don't have enough of knowledge, but most of the servers that you're gonna rent to build your own node are gonna be on Linux because it's cheaper in comparing to the Windows server. So many people prefer to rent a VPS using a Linux system. So with my script, you can run it just with the one command, and then you can run completely fully node. So, and yeah, like that's how I feel like my way to serve for the community.
Yeah. So my closing thoughts. First of all, I want to just thank you for having us on here and kind of giving a perspective into Idena. And huge, huge, huge shout out to all of the rest of the Idena community. We're present on Discord, Telegram, other social channels, Twitter, etc. But it truly is a global community. There's obviously an opportunity for more technical people that really want to dive into the tech, but also just anybody who wants to get started with blockchain technology or Web3. It's a very, very welcoming community for all ranges of that scale. So if you'd like to check it out, you can go to idena.io, and that's a great place to get started with the community.
And also there is one more thing, because we're just on the initial part, and it is wonderful to be part of that system that actually represent fair democracy without conclusion, like where are you from which country, what is your nationality. The most important part, that you are a human, and you can serve for the community just because you are a human, and you can get the benefits of the community because you are a human, and not because how big your stake, or what is your location, and what kind of hardware do you have, and so on. And this is very important, and I hope that that podcast gonna bring more people into our friendly and open mind community. And thank you very much. It was a pleasure, to participate today and talk about it.
Yeah, thank you guys a lot.